sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
All right, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into Kanye's real estate. He's made a lot of headlines with some of his purchases, but I think there's a lot more to uncover here than just like celebrity gossip. We got a hold of some articles about his property portfolio, some financial reports, and it's kind of like a blueprint, to understanding how he uses real estate to like express himself, make investments.
Yeah.
And, maybe even shape his legacy.
Yeah, it's interesting because, we're not just talking about like, a couple of houses here and there. Kanye's real estate holdings are like all over the place. He's got like luxury mansions, sprawling ranches. It's pretty diverse.
Yeah. And it's not jump change either, right? We're looking at a reported net worth of what, like $2.77 billion, with over 75 million of that attributed to his property portfolio.
Yeah, that's a figure most of us can only dream of. But it's kind of interesting to think about it in the context of, someone like Kanye's stature. Is that really as much as you would expect him to have tied up in real estate?
Yeah, that's a good point. 75 million is a lot.
Yeah.
To the average person, obviously. But it is a relatively small chunk of his overall wealth. So let's start unpacking this whole real estate puzzle, shall we? So first up, we've got his recent purchase in Beverly Hills. $35 million mansion, 11 bedrooms, 18 bathrooms. It's practically a small hotel.
Yeah, it definitely speaks to, a certain level of extravagance. But you have to keep in mind, a lot of these properties, especially, when you talk about that price range, they're really meant to cater to like large entourages, staff, guests. It's kind of a statement of success, a way to project an image of power and influence.
Right. But here's where it gets kind of interesting. There have been reports that Kanye has been reluctant to return to the U.S. So why drop $35 million on a Beverly Hills mansion if you're supposedly, avoiding the country?
Yeah. it is a bit of a contradiction. Maybe it signals, a shift in his thinking, or, maybe it is just a strategic investment. Real estate in a place like Beverly Hills, that's often seen as like a safe haven for wealth, regardless of where you actually live.
Yeah, true. Okay, so maybe there's more to this Beverly Hills purchase than meets the eye. But let's move on to a real estate saga that definitely made headlines. The Malibu house debacle. So $57.25 million purchase. He gutted it with the intention of creating, like a modernist bunker, only to sell it at a whopping $36 million loss.
Yeah, that's a staggering figure, even by celebrity real estate standards. It really raises some questions about, Kanye's approach to real estate. Was this just like impulsive spending? Did he totally overestimate his ability to like add value to the property?
Yeah, well, the original house was designed by Tadao Anando, like a Pritzker prize-winning architect, no less. So to gut it and essentially start from scratch, seems like a pretty risky move.
Yeah, From a purely financial standpoint, you could definitely argue that it was a miscalculation. Architectural pedigree holds a lot of weight in the luxury market.
Yeah.
And by essentially erasing Ando's vision, he kind of stripped the property of,
a big part of its value.
Right. But maybe he wasn't just thinking purely in terms of like dollars and cents. Maybe he saw it as like an opportunity to create something, truly unique, a statement piece.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. And to be fair, the world of high-end real estate, it's increasingly moving towards these experiential properties, homes that offer like a unique narrative, a sense of exclusivity. But in this case, it seems like the market wasn't quite ready for Kanye's vision.
Yeah, a $36 million loss kind of suggests he missed the mark on that one. But on the other hand, he did eventually sell it to Bellwood Investments, and they're planning to restore the original Ando design. So maybe in the long run, some good will come out of this, at least for architecture enthusiasts. Yeah, that's definitely a silver lining. It also kind of highlights the, subjective nature of value in real estate. What one person sees as, a masterpiece, another person might just see as like a blank canvas. And ultimately, the market kind of decides what something's truly worth.
Right. Okay, so we've got, a potential safe haven in Beverly Hills, a risky gamble gone wrong in Malibu. Let's shift gears now and head to Wyoming, where Kanye's real estate story takes another interesting turn. We're talking about not one, but two sprawling ranches, the nearly 4,000-acre West Lake Ranch and the even larger Monster Lake Ranch, coming in at over 6,700 acres.
Yeah, these weren't just your typical, celebrity vacation homes. We're talking heated helicopter pads, walk-in saunas, enough acreage to rival a national park.
Yeah, it's like he was trying to build his own private kingdom out there in the Wyoming wilderness.
Yeah.
But what's really intriguing to me is that these ranches, they seem to represent something more than just a desire for, luxury or escape. Remember all that talk about his plans for fighting homelessness, for like building a community, for hosting his Sunday services.
Right, exactly. It was almost as if he was trying to create like a utopia, a place where he could combine, his artistic vision with this sense of social purpose.
Yeah.
And this idea of, using real estate as a platform for something larger, something that transcends just pure financial gain. It's actually becoming increasingly popular among the ultra-wealthy.
Well, it's not just about owning the biggest house or the most exclusive property. It's about using real estate to make a statement, to leave a legacy. But here's the thing. Kanye eventually sold both of those ranches. What do you make of that? Did he just get bored with the Wyoming experiment?
It's possible. I mean, we've already seen that. Kanye can be a little restless. He tends to jump from one grand project to the next. But it's also worth considering, just the practical challenges of managing properties of that scale. I mean, ranches require a lot of upkeep, a lot of staff, and a lot of ongoing investment. Maybe he just realized it wasn't, a sustainable lifestyle for him in the long run.
Yeah. Or maybe his priorities just shifted. I mean, remember during this time, he was going through, a very public divorce, a presidential campaign, a lot of personal upheaval. It wouldn't be surprising if, his vision for those ranches kind of evolved as his own life circumstances changed.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think we often forget that, these real estate decisions, they're being made within the context of someone's life, their relationships, their ambitions. It's not just about numbers on a balance sheet. It's about personal expression, about trying to create a world that aligns with your values and aspirations.
Okay, so we've seen Kanye, make bold moves, take risks, even experience, some pretty major losses in the real estate market. But there is one property that holds a particularly significant place in his story, both personally and financially. The Hidden Hills mansion that he shared with Kim Kardashian.
Ah, yes. The $20 million, 8-bedroom, 12-bathroom masterpiece, complete with 3 kitchen islands, 2 swimming pools, and even 2 vineyards.
2 vineyards, come on. Is there anything this house doesn't have? But what's really interesting is that, after the divorce, Kim kept the house and Kanye bought a property right across the street. And from what I've read, it seems like that house has been sitting empty ever since.
Yeah, I mean, that detail really speaks volumes. It suggests, a really deep emotional attachment to that particular place, the memories, and the life that he built there. And it highlights the fact that for someone like Kanye, real estate decisions aren't always driven by logic or financial pragmatism.
Yeah, he was trying to stay close, to maintain some sort of connection. Even though the relationship had ended, it's almost tragic in a way.
Yeah, it definitely adds a layer of complexity to his whole real estate narrative. And it reminds us that even in the world of the ultra-wealthy, whereas, money seems to be no object, these properties can hold immense sentimental value, a significance that goes far beyond their market price.
So we've got, a sprawling mansion in Hidden Hills, a potential safe haven in Beverly Hills, 2 abandoned ranches in Wyoming, and, a modernist bunker in Malibu that ended up costing him a fortune.
It's quite the portfolio, wouldn't you say?
It's definitely eclectic.
Yeah.
A real testament to Kanye's, ever-evolving tastes and ambitions. But I think, as we've seen, there's often more to these real estate moves than meets the eye. They're not just about, acquiring properties. They're about expressing a vision, making a statement, and perhaps even trying to find a place where he truly belongs.
And that brings us to, the $1 million question. What does Kanye's real estate journey tell us about him? Is he a savvy investor, an impulsive spender, or something in between? And maybe even more importantly, what clues does it offer about his next move? Yeah, those are all really great questions. And those are questions that we'll definitely explore further a little bit later on. But I think for now, it's safe to say that Kanye West is not afraid to break the mold when it comes to real estate. He's shown us that, for him, these properties are more than just investments. They're extensions of his creativity, his personality, and his ever-evolving vision for the world. I think it's important to remember that in the world of, ultra high net worth individuals, real estate plays a different role than it does for most of us. It's not just about financial returns. It's about, status, legacy, creating a world that reflects their unique vision.
So you're saying that, sometimes the emotional or symbolic value of a property can outweigh the, purely financial considerations?
Absolutely. I mean, think about, the Hidden Hills mansion. Yeah, it's a valuable asset. But for Kanye, it represented something much deeper, family, history, a sense of belonging. And even though he ultimately lost the house in the divorce, Buying the property across the street suggests that. Those emotional ties were just too strong to sever completely.
Yeah, it's like he was trying to hold on to a piece of that past, even if it meant, making a decision that didn't necessarily make financial sense. But, if we're talking about emotional attachments, what about those Wyoming ranches? Those seem to represent like a completely different side of Kanye. A yearning for like escape, a connection to nature, even a desire to make a positive social impact.
Yeah, you're right. The Wyoming chapter was really fascinating because it showed, a different side of Kanye, a more, introspective, almost utopian side.
Yeah.
He talked about building a community, using the land for, sustainable agriculture, even addressing homelessness. I mean, it was a far cry from the glitz and glamour of his other properties.
Right, but then he just, he sold them. Yeah. It's almost as if he gets bored easily, constantly needing a new project to pour his energy into.
Well, yeah, I mean, that restlessness is definitely, a key part of his personality. You see it in his music, his fashion, his business ventures. He's constantly pushing boundaries, experimenting, reinventing himself. And his real estate choices, they reflect that same restless energy.
So how do we make sense of all this? I mean, if we can't predict his next move, based purely on financial logic, what other clues can we look for?
Well, I think it's helpful to look for recurring themes in his real estate journey. One theme that really jumps out to me is his need for creative control. He's not content with just buying a pre-existing property. He wants to put his own stamp on it, whether that's, gutting a Tadao Ando masterpiece or transforming a sprawling ranch into a spiritual retreat.
So you're saying it's less about the property itself and more about the potential that he sees in it, the opportunity to kind of shape it into something that reflects his vision.
Exactly. And that kind of ties into another recurring theme, which is his ambition. I mean, whether it's music, fashion, or real estate, Kanye always aims high. He wants to make a statement, to leave his mark on the world. And that ambition sometimes leads him to make, bold, even risky decisions, like that Malibu house purchase.
Right. So creative control, ambition. Any other themes that kind of stand out to you?
Well, I think his real estate choices also kind of reveal this tension between his desire for privacy and his need for connection. On the one hand, he buys these secluded ranches and talks about, escaping the spotlight. But on the other hand, he's drawn to the heart of the entertainment industry, buying properties in Beverly Hills and Hidden Hills.
It's like he's constantly trying to balance those two impulses, the need to retreat and the desire to be, at the center of the action.
Yeah, and that tension, I think, is what makes his real estate journey so fascinating. It's a reflection of, his own internal struggles, his search for a place where he can truly be himself, both as an artist and as a human being.
So where does that leave us? In terms of predicting his next move, honestly, after all this analysis, I'm even more stumped. He could buy a private island, build a skyscraper, or move into a hobbit hole for all we know.
You're not wrong, but I think if we keep those recurring themes in mind, creative control, ambition, the tension between public and private, we might be able to narrow down the possibilities a bit.
Okay, so let's play a game then, based on everything we've learned. What's more likely? Kanye buying, a historic castle in Europe, creating a sustainable eco-village in the Amazon rainforest, or building a state-of-the-art recording studio complex in Los Angeles.
Tough choices, but if I had to bet, I'd probably put my money on the recording studio complex in Los Angeles.
Really? Why?
Well, think about it. It allows him to maintain his connection to the music industry, a world that's clearly important to him. It offers, a blank canvas for his creative vision, a place where he can experiment and push boundaries. And it provides, a level of control and privacy that's harder to achieve in a more public setting.
Plus, it wouldn't be a huge departure from his previous real estate moves. He's already shown a knack for, transforming properties. This is his, creative need.
Exactly. And let's not forget the business aspect. I mean, a state-of-the-art recording studio complex could be a lucrative investment, attracting top artists, generating substantial revenue.
You're thinking practicality meets ambition meets creative control. It's a compelling argument. But with Kanye, I've learned to expect the unexpected.
That's the fun of it, isn't it? I mean, we can analyze, we can speculate, we can draw conclusions, but ultimately, Kanye's real estate journey is a reflection of his own, unpredictable and ever-evolving spirit.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the world of Kanye West's real estate. We've covered a lot of ground today, from sprawling ranches to minimalist bunkers to abandoned mansions. And while we may not have all the answers, I think we've gained a deeper understanding of the man behind the properties, his motivations, his contradictions, and his, enduring ability to surprise and captivate us all. So thanks for joining us on this wild ride. And who knows, maybe someday we'll be back to analyze his lunar base.
Welcome back. So we were talking about Kanye's real estate decisions and trying to figure out if there's any method to his madness. I got to say, it's a wild ride. Trying to keep up with all his choices, massive ranches, to a near empty house across the street from his ex-wife.
And let's not forget that Malibu house. I mean, losing $36 million on a single property.
Yeah.
That's got to hurt, even for someone with, Kanye's resources.
Yeah, it definitely raises the question. Is he making, calculated investment decisions?
Yep.
Or is he just kind of following his whims? Well, that's the puzzle we're trying to solve, right? But I think, it's important to keep it in mind that when you're talking about, ultra high net worth individuals, real estate plays a different role than it does for most of us. It's not just about, financial returns. It's about status, legacy, creating a world that reflects, their unique vision.
So you're saying sometimes the emotional or symbolic value of a property can outweigh the, purely financial consideration.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at the Hidden Hills mansion. Yeah, it's a valuable asset. But for Kanye, it represented something, much deeper, family, history, a sense of belonging. And even though, he ultimately lost the house in the divorce, buying the property across the street, I think that suggests that, those emotional ties were just too strong to just completely sever.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to hold on to a piece of the past.
Yeah.
Even if it meant, making a decision that didn't really make financial sense. But speaking of, emotional attachments, what about those Wyoming ranches?
Yeah.
Those seem to represent a completely different side of Kanye. A yearning for escape, a connection to nature, even a desire to,
make a positive social impact.
You're right. The Wyoming chapter was really fascinating.
Yeah.
Because it showed a different side of Kanye, more introspective side. You could even say utopian.
Yeah.
He was talking about, building a community, using the land for sustainable agriculture, even addressing homelessness. It was a far cry from, the glitz and glamour of his other properties.
But then he just folded
it. Sold them. It's almost like he gets bored easily, constantly needing a new project to pour his energy into the.
Well, yeah, I mean, that restlessness, that's definitely, a key part of his personality. You see it in his music, his fashion, his business ventures. He's always pushing boundaries, experimenting, reinventing himself, and his real estate choices. They definitely reflect that same, restless energy.
So how do we make sense of all of this if we can't predict his next move based purely on financial logic? What other clues can we look for?
Well, I think it's helpful to look for, recurring themes in his real estate journey. One theme that really jumps out to me is, his need for creative control. He's not content with just buying a pre-existing property. He wants to put his own stamp on it, whether that's, gutting a Tadao Ando masterpiece or transforming a sprawling ranch into a spiritual retreat.
So you're saying it's less about the property itself.
Yeah.
And more about the potential he sees in it. The opportunity to.
Yeah.
Shape it into something that reflects his own vision.
Exactly. And that kind of ties into another recurring theme, which is his ambition. Whether it's music, fashion, or real estate, Kanye always aims high. He wants to make a statement. He wants to leave his mark on the world. And that ambition sometimes leads him to make bold, even risky decisions, like, that Malibu house.
Right. So we've got creative control, ambition. Are there any other themes that stand out to you?
Well, I think his real estate choices also reveal this tension between, his desire for privacy and his need for connection. On the one hand, he buys these secluded ranches and talks about, escaping the spotlight. But on the other hand, he's drawn to the heart of the entertainment industry, buying properties and, Beverly Hills and Hidden Hills.
It's like he's constantly trying to balance those two impulses, the need to retreat and the desire to be, the center of the action.
Yeah, and I think that tension is what makes his real estate journey so fascinating. It's a reflection of his own internal struggles, his search for a place where he can truly be himself, both as an artist and as a human being.
So where does that leave us in terms of predicting his next move? Honestly, after all this, I'm even more stumped. Yeah, he could buy a private island. He could build a skyscraper. He could move into a hobbit hole for all we know.
You're not wrong. But I think if we keep those recurring themes in mind, creative control, ambition, that tension between public and private, maybe we can narrow down the possibilities a little bit.
Okay, so let's play a little game. Based on everything we've learned, what do you think is more likely? Kanye buying, a historic castle in Europe, creating a sustainable eco-village in the Amazon rainforest, or building like a state-of-the-art recording studio complex in Los Angeles.
Tough choices. But if I had to bet, I'd say the recording studio complex in LA.
Really? Why? Well, think about it. It allows him to maintain his connection to, the music industry, a world that's clearly important to him and offers him, a blank canvas for his creative vision, a place where he can experiment, push boundaries. And, it provides that level of control and privacy that's harder to achieve in a more public setting. Plus, it wouldn't be a huge departure from his, previous real estate moves he's already shown a knack for, transforming properties to suit his, creative needs.
Exactly. And, let's not forget the business aspect. I mean, a state-of-the-art recording studio complex could be a really lucrative investment, attracting top artists, generating substantial revenue.
So you're thinking practicality meets ambition, meets creative control. It's a compelling argument. But with Kanye, I've learned to expect the unexpected.
Well, that's the fun of it, isn't it? I mean, we can analyze, we can speculate, we can draw conclusions, but ultimately Kanye's real estate journey is a reflection of,
his own unpredictable,
ever-evolving spirit.
Well said. Well, that just about wraps up our deep dive into the world of Kanye West. Real estate, we covered a lot of ground. Sprawling ranches, minimalist bunkers, abandoned mansions. And I think while we may not have all the answers, we definitely gained a deeper understanding of, the man behind these properties, his motivations, his contradictions, and his, enduring ability to surprise and captivate us all. So I want to thank you for joining us on this wild ride. And who knows, maybe we'll be back someday to analyze his listener base.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till